The subject is gifts, the gifts of Sri Aurobindo. And thankfully, Radhe added and the mother, because the two are inseparable. When parents visit their child's place, doesn't matter whose hand the gift comes from, it comes from both. So when Sri Aurobindo and the mother visit their dearest child, Mother Earth, to us she is mother, but she's formed of physical bodies. But to the divine, she is not just a daughter, but a wonderful daughter. She is a goddess who chose to take upon herself the burden that is rare even for the gods. And therefore we worship Earth. Not just because she bears us, but because of this wonderful sacrifice that she has done. And therefore, time to time, the divine comes and touches Earth. This is a glory which even the gods don't experience. If they have to experience, they have to come down to Earth, assume a mortal frame, or they have to be in some antariksh, intermediate worlds, and watch from there the Leela of the divine which goes on Earth. This is the privilege of the Earth, and the privilege of all of us earth-born race, human race. So, the mother spoke about Sri Aurobindo's birth as the eternal birth. When asked to elaborate, she said it can be understood at 4 levels. Physically, it is a birth whose consequences will last as long as the earth. It's a cryptic clause. As long as the earth, it could mean 2 things. One is that while Earth is the present stage of our evolution, it is quite likely that after its work is over, its work was to prepare the supramental being, and the supramental being in a new body, a new vehicle, could live on who knows where. Very passingly, Sri Aurobindo mentions in records of yoga, Mars being the previous stage of evolution. Perhaps that's why we are so fascinated. Who knows in the coming cycles? We don't know. We are. It's a preparation which is wonderful. But we do hope that she has been such a wonderful mother to all of us, and it's she who gets transformed fully. But this was a question that Sri Aurobindo did keep in the balance. But more importantly, as long as the earth lasts, Sri Aurobindo and the mother also said, the mother specifically, that this time there is not going to be a pralaya. Why there is a need for pralaya or a mass destruction, complete destruction of earth and life here upon earth? 6 times it has happened. Even scientists speak about the 5 ice ages, or possibly 6, is because the momentum towards progress, earthly beings are not able to hold it. So beyond a point, it lapses back. But this time, it will be a constant progression. So that is what is expected, because there will be a constant progression. There will not be a lapse back into a catastrophic destruction. It applies even to the individual human body. The mother speaks about undoing the body futurewards. Even now, the body is undone every few years. But every time you have a new set of cells, they are backwards. In the sense the consciousness advances, and they are like carbon copies, which with each copy become less and less effective. Errors multiply. So if the body could be undone futurewards, it would mean a deathless state. So all these are beautiful, not mysteries to the abstract intelligence, but very much conceivable and, if I may say so, practicable if we get into it. So this is the first effect of Sri Aurobindo's birth, that its consequences will last as long as the earth lasts. The second level at which it can be understood is mentally, and it is mentally, she says, its memory will last in the human race throughout. I have often wondered about this, that how come, civilizations come and go, but why is it that the avatar is remembered? Even after people doubt it, but avatar is remembered. People look for evidences, they find, they may not find, is irrelevant. How is it that 17,000 years, according to one estimate, I am not good at remembering the dates and history in that sense, and it's not interesting also, maybe. But imagine Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Parshuram, Matsya Avatar, Christ, Buddha, all of them are remembered. And it's not because of the followers who spread about the teachings. Probably it's the other way around. They would be remembered. Why they are remembered, how they are remembered. So Sri Aurobindo comes as the culmination of this lineage of avatars. And his memory will remain in the earth atmosphere. Even when things are forgotten outside, the memory remains. There is a whole part of the earth where, just like within us, memory remains. That's a wonderful subject in its own right. What is memory? Where it remains? Where it is lost? How it is activated? Something very beautiful, wonderful, subject of a workshop. But just this memory, there is a whole domain in the earth where all the memories of the past remain. And the mother would see a movie and she would say, "Oh, this is not how it happened." And when she would be asked, she said that there is a domain of the earth. You go there, you will see things exactly how they happened. It's like an imprint. Even Sri Aurobindo says, if you give to a yogi a sword, he will touch it and know who all have used it. It may be hundreds of years old. He will know through the imprints. So we can understand what it means to have something touched by Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Can you imagine what it means? That touch remains, it doesn't matter. So we have the mentally, it can be understood like psychically, she literally, she's not repeating in this way, but she literally in a way reproducing the words of the Gita, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. But how is she saying it? She says psychically it is a birth that recurs from age to age, from time to time, and she even says, and will recur. She also speaks of the future tense. It is what is recurring, whose birth is recurring. Psychically, it is time to time, just the psychic being changes the old body, takes a new one. So it's a recurring birth. So also when there is a time for an age to come to an end and transit to another age, the divine takes a human body and lead the human march. This is something we spoke about yesterday. And finally she says, spiritually it is the birth of the eternal upon earth. So at all these four levels we can understand. And so also we can understand Sri Aurobindo's gifts at all these and many other levels. His presence itself is a gift. For the divine to be embodied upon earth, we cannot imagine what it means. Before Sri Aurobindo's coming, we had two choices, both, at least to me, as absurd as they could be. One was pactize with earth, live in Rome and do as the Romans do, live upon earth and do as earthlings do, eat, drink, be merry, party, that's it. Have some higher thoughts, read some good literature, visit the religious places to do these, satisfy your, guilt, whatever it means. People hold their ears and they do, up and down in front of God's image so that they can come out and commit fresh sins. So this was life. And we call it life, living for the sake of the body, for what is known as family, domesticated animal, and have children, raise them up, and at the end become a picture frame. Be very happy. My Dadaji, and see, next will be me. It is so absurd if you look at it. So absurd. Human life, if we look at it at another level, to spend thoughts on eating, to spend thoughts on this, that. Okay, enjoy good food, that's okay. But to be preoccupied with these things. This was one choice. People take that choice. It's okay. Their business. Another choice was if you didn't find this is what it should be because you are born with a dream of an ideal. Life should be beautiful. Life must be wonderful. Life should share something of the glorious liberties of heaven. It should be a dream, not a nightmare, but a beauty. If it is a dream, it should be a beautiful dream because the dreamer is the Lord. But they had no choice because everybody told them this earth is only a veil of sorrows, a vanity of vanities. It's nothing but dukkham in various ways, a field of suffering, pain, though we make sometimes too much exaggeration of pain. Even the most Mayavadi who says all this is suffering and pain, and tell him, sir, please show us the way. Let's as quickly as possible cut the knot of suffering. He also enjoys. So it's not like it is all suffering and vanity. Like everything on earth is only, there are some beautiful things which I've expressed here, and it's important to reckon with them. But yes, by and large, at the end, everything collapses into death, into, the dark inconscience. So the other choice was, some people came, said, look here, we'll open a door and you can escape. This is good, cool. What do I have to do with it? No, subscribe to a formal religion, get initiated, practice a mantra, pass through the door, and you're done with life and birth and death. Wonderful, but too selfish for hearts that are made of fire and steel. Too selfish. A lonely freedom cannot satisfy a heart that has grown one with every heart. How can one be so selfish? I have found a way. So some people found a way out of that selfishness also. Okay, I'll make more and more people come out through that. Making an absurdity of God and creator and creation, of course. So, but these were the two choices. How to make life better? Well, Mother gives this example. One of St. Francis. Do as much good as possible upon earth. Help people in whatever way. Distribute blankets, give free medicines. This doesn't matter. Blankets will run away and, will rot or be sold. Food, you give them nice food, one day in a week. For 6 days they are unhappy. But this is how people still believe that this is how you can make life better. The other was the way of the Buddha. Come out of this. There are many others who spoke about it, but Buddha stands as the ultimate in this area. Come out of this dukkham. This is because of desires. Who created desires? Because of desire, divine desire, that one desired. He doesn't even use the word one, just desire created this universe. Come out of it because it brings suffering. Very logical, extremely logical. But then these were the two choices. And if you didn't like the two, just quietly suffer the birth and wait for whatever may happen after death. Now Sri Aurobindo comes, his very presence opens the door to a new choice, which is so wonderful. Those who waited for long, that there must be a way, not a middle way, but a way to synthesize earth and heaven, to marry earth and heaven, to reconcile material life and the spiritual, not reconciling in terms of 2 hours spiritual and 20 hours material, not reconciling in that way, but making matter an instrument of the spirit, turning this body into gold, not just dust and clay. So this is a new possibility which he gave to earth, and with it a new hope. And if for nothing else, just this is so wonderful. It doesn't matter when it will happen, how much time, these are all questions which have no relevance. The fact that this will happen, the fact that we can be called upon to it, the fact that we can participate in it, is alone which is enough. 100 years, 300 years, 1,000 years, even 10,000 years, there is a new hope. One takes it and advances and moves forward with faith and trust and hope in the new creation. So he gave us this vision because we were like blind men. He gave us a new vision. But along with the new vision, you see, the seers are known to have two faculties which awaken in the seer: truth vision and truth audition. Truth vision is not just seeing subtle images, but it is to see the truth hidden behind appearance. It's another kind of seeing altogether. And truth audition is not like you are hearing voices all the time speaking to you. It's about receiving the truth through faculties of inspiration, intuition, revelation, truth audition. So he not only gave us truth vision, but also truth audition. He activated a new mantra in earthly life. And when we read through his writings, page by page, white star scripts of the gods, so we are wrapped with ecstasy and wonder and amazement. So that revelation is given to us equally in a powerful mantric language. It's important because revelations can come, okay, Tillard de Chardin that it's going to come. But he gave us, along with the revelation, the mantra with which we can advance towards it. All his writings are a mantra. So this was another gift he gave to us. But there must be something like on the material level, on the physical plane. It's okay. Inwardly we have the mantra, we have the vision, and we can move individually. So he started creating, like, rishis of old, they would make yajna-shalas, yajna bhumi. There must be a camp, as he uses the word in Savitri, a camp of God. That word is, for a moment in bracket. Okay, a camp of God is pitched in human time. It's referring to the kingdom of the soul, of course. But in space and time, there should be spaces where this new creation can flourish. It's important. It doesn't it cannot just inwardly, there must be spaces conquered, time and space conquered for the sake of the divine. So at his first Yajna-shala, where does it start from? The first ashram of Sri Aurobindo, if you may call it, in the Alipur jail. Only God can have this sense of humor. He does say that in one of his writings. I went to a holy place and I was bored. People all uttering holy things. So God took me to a prison, something like that, and it turned out his ashram, there's where he could have the rendezvous with God. First experiment, the worst kind of criminals, everybody. He had already done that experiment in a very miniature way. And then, of course, we know in Pondicherry, he creates a seed plot. We should never underestimate the work and the what is there in. It doesn't matter by what name we call it, but the fact that they engaged in tapasya there is something which the earth can never forget. It doesn't matter, institution, all this is really speaking not the thing. But they engaged in tapasya. It's like a tirtha where the spiritual energy of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, the twin avatars, in its most intense form. It's tremendously intense. They also created Auroville. Not everybody can engage in this intense tapasya because ashram requires a complete consecration to the divine. It's difficult. We want something like that, but this kind of total consecration, so Mother created Auroville. It's enough if you have a goodwill for human unity. It's enough if you have a goodwill for progress. Come here, this is also my space. It's an amazing thing how they were creating spaces. And in this, both these spaces, if you look at it, it's located within the geographical boundaries of India where tapasya had been carried on for ages. So though Sri Aurobindo says that 15th August is my own birthday and it's gratifying that independence, God has gifted the independence on his day, putting a seal and stamp on his work. But actually, it is Sri Aurobindo's gift to the world. India is Sri Aurobindo's gift to the world, because India is never meant to be living for its own personal interests. That's not the India that Sri Aurobindo, that's not the India that ever was, and Sri Aurobindo reminds it that political freedom of India is only a step towards spiritual freedom, and this spiritual freedom of India is necessary for the whole world. Otherwise it has no meaning. Another great nation, technologically developed, advanced, all this is fine. It should. But that's not the purpose. So India itself, all that he revealed or released during the time of freedom struggle, till date, ultimately India realized freedom along those lines. Passive boycott, Swadeshi, then, all the means that he revealed there, along those lines, we see India ultimately realized. Though the credit went to different people, but that's okay. Sri Aurobindo has no issues with that. But the key things that he gave, keys, that's why Sri Aurobindo withdrew, because he had already laid the lines. And most important, he awakened the soul of India. Bhavani Bharati, Mother Durga, and kept in our midst. And then, as if this is not enough, the ashram, Auroville, we should never forget, they are not human creations, they are not run by human beings. People often ask, they say, I can't understand this thing in the ashram and that thing in the ashram. So I tell them that, look here, it is the mother's creation. You can't understand with the human mind. But one thing which Mother and Sri Aurobindo have said, we must understand, since we are speaking about this space. In one of the letters Sri Aurobindo wrote to Nishtha, Woodrow Wilson's daughter, Margaret Wilson, and he wrote that, this ashram is a laboratory, as you say, as X says. Or was it Eleanor Montgomery? Probably yes, the latter. This ashram is a laboratory, as X says. So it's a kind of divine laboratory. And then he reveals something very interesting. The earth itself is a laboratory, where through various combinations something is happening. And that happening is evolution. It's the most happening laboratory in the entire universe. And in earth, the place where this work is most concentrated, it is India. So all the difficulties come there. Already we spoke about. And to make it simpler, they created ashram and Auroville to concentrate the difficulties of earth concentrated in India. They are found everywhere, but in a diluted version. The difficulties of India, earth and India, concentrated in the ashram and Auroville. Please note it very clearly and carefully, those who want to take the plunge. It is not to run away from difficulties. You cannot come to ashram, oh, now I'll have a peaceful life. When people came like that, Mother would say, go to Raman ashram, it is nearby, you'll have a peaceful life. It's a laboratory of God. But he wanted it to become more concrete. So, to go a little backward, as my dear friend, of course he's passed away, elder, but wonderful speaker and writer, Chote Narayanji, used to say, see, in Krishna avatar, in Ram avatar, the gods were on this side and the demons were far away in Lanka. In Krishna avatar, they were both in the same clan. In Sri Aurobindo avatar, he brought both of them together in the same human heart. So this body itself, a laboratory of God. And he says that in the Life Divine. Animal was the laboratory through which nature evolved man. Who knows if man is not the laboratory of nature, where using conscious means and processes with the participation of the human, it does not intend to bring out something greater, something more marvelous, something more divine. So this way of looking at the human body, something very different, the new possibility in the human body, the body can be divinized, is something which is amazing. It makes sense completely, bridging the complete gulf between the body and soul, between matter and spirit. Man becomes thereby a point of transition, not to depart, but a meeting ground of the spirit and matter. This is the great utility of man, that he stands at the meeting junction. He is the bridge, and this bridge can become a meeting point for the divine and the physical existence, earthly life. This is the beauty of human existence, great utility, its real purpose and fulfillment. So he created these yag spots, yag sthalis, but this is not enough. So after the supramental manifestation, we see the mother several places. Even before that, there were some study circles, some land which was taken here and there, like in Madhuban and some places where lands were given. And they became, Sri Aurobindo says, for example, to land which was given Tapogiri by somebody to Sri Aurobindo, he says, it is our foothold in the Himalayas. So she started this work of making many, many miniature Yagyavedis. The Yagya in Pondicherry ashram had to spread into the world. And so we see that Sri Aurobindo, how, relics, how it started, when Champak Lalji would suddenly pick up, and there are very beautiful instances where once, his nail, when he would cut, he would preserve all these things. So one of them is fallen, and suddenly they are searching for it, Nirodha and Champak Lalji. And Sri Aurobindo smilingly says, so, found it? He never discouraged that, don't keep them, they are waste, what is the use? He knew very well that this is going to become the modern power spots, Shakti Peeth. He knew it very well. So we see numerous relics, and Mother herself started sending, strands of hair of Sri Aurobindo. To those who may wonder what is there in a hair, Shiva, one hair of Shiva, as the myth goes, created Veerbhadra, who demolished every possible god on the way. This was Shiva. Shri Krishna takes up the wheel of the chariot. Against whom? Bhishma. Because he has to save Arjuna. Bhishma says, you promised that you will not lift up. He said, yes, but to save my devotee is much greater than my promise. The world may say anything to me, but I'll save him any which way. My first promise is to my bhakta. Picks up the chariot, and the entire volley of arrows that Bhishma sends, it is powerless and ineffective. That wheel of the chariot becomes not just the Sudarshan Chakra, is there documented, recorded in the Mahabharata. It's something amazing. So we can just imagine a strand of hair of Sri Aurobindo, nail pieces, tooth. We know about Buddha's tooth, stupas they keep. So first it started through these centers, part chakras, study circles, then relics. They are the modern Shakti Peeth. One of them, I'm sure, will be a very prominent one, important one, especially for the America, this side of the world, is Lagras. I think the sooner it develops, the better it is for America and for the world. Let me put it like that. It is not just for few devotees who will come there and who will, it's not at all for that. This work is not being done just for a few people to sit there and read and have some conferences, which is important and good. But it is because once that land becomes awake and alive with the presence, material presence of Sri Aurobindo, it is going to have a tremendous effect upon America. And coming together of America, Russia and India, we know is so important for the world. The Mother has spoken about that. India brings the spiritual power, and this America brings the material power, and their coming together is so important. So it's a tremendous action. This, just as an aside, it would be a gift of Sri Aurobindo to America. Then of course there are countless these books through which he released new idea forces. Not only about transformation, that of course. He gave a new meaning to Vedas, the Upanishads, the Gita. When you read through, I had read all these books before turning to Sri Aurobindo. And I enjoyed them, but like, this is not what I am looking for. Especially the Gita, 5 interpretations I had read. None of them sounded like, that's it. And when he gave this new sense, you say everything fits in place. So new idea forces the same scriptures, but it's the way he looked at it and the way he released, the way he revealed to us. And then not only with regard to spiritual life, religion, he uplifted, sublimated to what levels? Who would have known what Buddha represented? Who would have known what Krishna stood for? Who would have known what Christ sacrificed his life for? Who would have known what is the ideal of Rama? Nobody. It is Sri Aurobindo uplifted religion. There are 2 ways. Some people have just been iconoclasts. They have destroyed religion because they found it creating ills. Sri Aurobindo liberated it from all its trappings and revealed its secret truth. This is the difference. Not only religion, everything with any little possibility. There is a whole series of writings of Sri Aurobindo, short writings, in essays, divine and human, and essays in philosophy and yoga. It is a whole science of consciousness. At one place, Sri Aurobindo uses this word. And those who need to understand this world, how the divine would, it's too much into the future. And I think a scientist who reads it will get such wonderful insights. But it's not like scholarly work done here, there. It's a yogi's vision of what science would be, should be, and how it can progress along. Everything, he just let it progress towards infinite heights. To art. We have all kinds of art today. Sri Aurobindo's one-liner. What is the purpose of art? It is to reveal what nature hides. That beauty. The purpose of art is to refine, to create beauty. The purpose of music is to refine, to create beauty. Science, to reveal the all-wonderful and how he works in the world. That is the purpose of science. All these things so beautifully he has revealed through a series of writings. Amazing. In every field you pick up. What is sleep? What is waking up? What is dream? What is food? What is relationship? Every area, but lifted up. So he's not just speaking of spirituality which is disconnected from life. But in everything, be it meditation, bhakti, karma, every aspect of life, how to handle matter, material forces, all these are such wonderful gifts. And again I say, it's a pity that we don't read it. To psychology and health, a completely new understanding. If you read Sri Aurobindo's vision of what man is, we have had 2 understandings of man. One was one of the most foolish that I read in the school. Man is a social animal. So I said, why should I be a good human being? I mean, this question, you should be good because you should be good. But social animal. Then there came this another vision, that man is divine in disguise. Wonderful. That's the Vedantic Vision. Swami Vivekananda thundered this truth till human ears could receive it. Man is not a fallen creature. Man is in his deep nature divine. Realize it. Sri Aurobindo added something very fascinating. Man is a transitional being. Why is he transitional? Well, because he has this divine nature hidden inside. His outer nature is a scaffolding through which this inner truth is trying to come out. When it comes out, he will no more be man but something else. So man is a transitional being, his real purpose and utility. Why? Because transitional being can be seen in 2 ways, like condescending man. No, it is to lift man's possibility to the utmost. Swami Vivekananda said man is a divine nature. But ultimately Vedanta is only about releasing the soul from moksha. But here he speaks about divinizing human nature. So it is ultimate psychology, and this psychology covers everything. The psychic being inside, the layers of personality from the outer, the inner to the inmost, the vertical layers and the circumconscient, the inconscient, the subconscient, the superconscient, human interchanges, all these things, which it's a whole subject. So then in field of health, we had this recent pandemic. Just imagine. The letters of Sri Aurobindo in 40 is speaking about influenza, the flu virus. And he says what you should do, what it is. So he describes it. He says, influenza, what we call as this viral infection, it has three components. One is the material. Look how he's describing as a scientist. There is a material component, which we discover in the laboratory. But material component is only a vehicle. Along with that, there is an adverse force which it attaches itself to all these material components. Even good forces can attach, the good bacteria. Then along with that, there is bad will, ill will. People are professing doomsday, things will be destroyed. Okay, fine. We are inviting all these forces, doomsday, thanks to doomsday. So there is a bad will. And sometimes it takes the form of an ignorant goodwill. See, I am cautioning you, world will be destroyed. It's a bad will, whether we like it or not, but it comes as goodwill that I am cautioning you. We know these prophecies took place. So there is a bad will. And then there is, along with that, the vibration of fear. And all this comes packaged together and enters the human mind through the power of suggestion. You had it. Now you're gone. So he says, what is to be done? He says, remain quiet. Any agitation, any restlessness, any fear disturbs the working of the grace. Stay quiet. And along with that, staying quiet, call the mother's peace, open to her grace and light. So all that is required. It will pass away. Now just imagine this, and this is not just about virus, I'm just about the entire understanding of health, healing, the forces behind it, the dislocation, the disharmony. Again, it's a whole science in itself. The part of the body which is affected, how from there you can understand what is the deeper disequilibrium going on. It's a whole science. He has given. Are we ready to receive and practice it? That's a different story altogether. So in every field, in literature, in poetry, it speaks about the future poetry and so on and so forth. Another gift which was a very gift by, it's not, when somebody comes and cleanses your streets, clears the sewage drains, we may not call it gift, but it is a gift. It was so dirty. Has anyone wondered what happened after the Second World War, the First and Second World War, and the Indian freedom, that midnight, where there was so much massacre, so much death, destruction, so much horror, fear, pain must have gone embedded into earth consciousness. How come all this suddenly started disappearing? If you look at from mid-50s onwards, 60, people are going into space, yoga is becoming a household word. Today, it's not even 50 years. People were talking about let's strive for human unity. What happened? Who absorbed it all? So while the world was asleep, Sri Aurobindo was cleansing, the two great wars, especially the Second World War, and its after effects, the poison that had arisen. What is that war? It was the Sagar Manthan, the churning of the great ocean. Because he had to pave the way for immortality, he came to give us the cup of immortality. So, not just immortality of the soul, but immortality of the very body. But to do that, as we know in the story, first poison comes out. So the poison that was buried inside the earth, all, divisions, hatreds, all kinds of things, various kinds of division, they came up and they took the form of Second World War. Who absorbed it? Who stood behind from his one room, not just monitoring, but actively, dynamically participating. There are books. One of them is The Lost Footsteps, which, Silvio and I forget the name, but it's a wonderful book of the reminiscences. People who experience Sri Aurobindo's direct intervention, Maggie Litchie's The Light That Shone into the Dark Abyss, how he intervened during the war. And after that, it was this poison that he was swallowing. People often ask that he left his body on 5th December 1950. Even that is the gift to save us, to facilitate upon earth. And the mother describes in late 40s, just around the time that the fumes of the World War, its poison fumes, so much massacre what took place, the goriest event in history as far as we can document. I think it surpassed Genghis Khan and all those who went before him. Kans and Ravana are goody asuras before all this. If you read all this, Genghis Khan and the Mongols and then the, Hitler, you feel, oh, Ravana at least was a Pandit Shiv Bhakta. He took Mata Sita but did not touch her. He's a goody guy in front of all of them. But this was supramental avatar absorbing all these poison fumes which had arisen out of the gas chambers and the cry, the anguish. So in late 40s, the mother describes that, how people were not receptive. He was bringing down, but again, as happens when you're around the divine, everything is good. You take life for granted, everything for granted, all the gifts for granted. So, mother says, he knew it is because of unconsciousness of humanity. But he did not blame them. He blamed the inconscient. What he did? He plunged into it and started drinking that poison stuff. And went down and down into this. We'll probably close with this little poem, A God's Labor. Went down and down into it. Into the body's Alice blind to pave the way for the supramental manifestation to come. Today we speak about it and we bask in the glory and we are very happy about the new world. But who paved the way with his body's death, if you want to put it? That too, Sri Aurobindo as a last act of supreme sacrifice. And even in his departure, it's one of the most touching incidents. He was going through all this, pain. He was not revealing it to anyone. You look at Sri Aurobindo's picture of 1950. From 20 to 50, he did not allow anybody to photograph. People wanted to make a crown of rare jewels for him. They were collecting money to celebrate his 75th birthday, giving him a crown of jewels. You know what Sri Aurobindo said? Let the kingdom come, the crown can wait. And what was he doing during that time? Mother says, if you look at his face, in 1920, when you look at his face, it's like the world is not ready and he is looking at this world that his greatness must save and free. He is looking at it. Such an intense gaze, power, that, this is the world he has to work upon. It's not ready. 1920. Mother joins him. Okay. We have to make the world ready. This is the command he gave. When mother said, is the world ready? He says, it is not ready. But if we have to wait, it will never be ready. We have to make it ready. And that's how we see that disciples started gathering as representatives and so on and so forth. And the whole thing grew. The integral yoga which he gave as a gift to man, so that it's a passage. It's not yoga as a technique. It's a passage from this life to a new life. And this passage is everywhere, in our thoughts, in our feelings, in our will, in our very body. It's a passage from the old life to the new life, from the old creation to the new creation. That's what integral yoga is about. So, when he saw that, the world is not ready, when you see his picture in 1950, mother says it's full of compassion for the world. Gazing at infinity. All his life he had given to redeem earth and man. But he didn't want to, because man is not ready, I must. So he says he plunged into the inconscient to prepare the way. He gave up his realization in his own body to hasten the collective realization upon earth. And that's why the mother said, people do not know what a great sacrifice Sri Aurobindo made. When he was asked about resuscitation of the body to come back, he says, no, I have deliberately given it up. I'll come back in the first supramental body formed in the supramental way. What the supramental way, one finds the entire, in the agenda when one reads, one finds what that supramental way is. But it's just to hasten the earth. You see that compassion during that period. What was Sri Aurobindo doing? He was giving us the greatest of all gifts. He knew. He had said, open to mother, surrender to her. 100 questions. Who is the mother? She is a French lady. How can you have an avatar in France? Avatar must be born in India. All these foolish questions. They want to tie God to a, particular... all these things. People ask Sri Aurobindo, you'll be amazed how they could ask. But they asked. And Sri Aurobindo is patiently replying, one after another. So he knew that if people could open to the mother like this, the whole new creation would take place. People have asked Sri Aurobindo. He says, yes. If they could just be integrally sincere and open to mother, she would bring down the new creation. But no. So he says, okay, I'll give our combined consciousness this ultimate gift, Savitri. You see, when Sri Aurobindo withdrew from the Indian scene, he had established the Divine Mother's power in the soul of India. From that day, the fate of the feminine, neglected on both sides of the globe, not only India, please, suddenly began to change. In 1928, there are many such gifts he has given without understanding. In 1928, a lady called Jaya Devi, she came and she told, she was going to Rameshwaram, but she saw Sri Aurobindo, she would not go. She had lovely visions of Sri Krishna. It is said that she was Yashodama in her previous life. So Sri Aurobindo, she said, don't make me a woman in next life. Sri Aurobindo smiled and said, why? Are, what do you understand? How much I had to, I have to take permission, I don't have money. With great difficulty when I said I am going to the Tirth, Rameshwaram. So my husband has given money and time out. And so I have come. If I become a woman again, this is the fate. Sri Aurobindo smiles and says, I am bringing a new age in which all this will not be necessary. It will be the age when women will be empowered. The feminine revolution in the true sense is the gift of the Divine Mother in Pondicherry Ashram. First time when the March past took place around the city of Pondicherry, town of Pondicherry, there was Abhay Singh Nahar and Light I forget her name, anyways, one woman and man, both beautiful, smart, tall, such wonderful even as form. And they were marching, so people threw stones. How can a woman lead? This is way back. What is? How can a woman lead? And when this was reported to the mother, she said, don't pay attention. Don't pay attention. Today, the woman leads. See, this was a big fault of Vedanta. Purusha, Purusha, Purusha. So people misunderstood Purusha to be this Purusha, physical Purusha. They forgot the feminine and they suffered. I know about spiritual movements where they don't see the woman. Woman has to be in the dark. I don't want to name it. And I had to give a talk sitting on platform with one such Swamiji. And all women went into the background. I said, what happened? No, he's not supposed to see a woman. I said, whose fault it is? It's not the woman's fault. It's your fault. If you can't see the Divine Mother in woman, it's your problem. Anyways, this is how spirituality was. And today you see a complete turnaround. This Sri Aurobindo's gift. Education. Not just national education. What these children have to become as children of the future. And they gave this wonderful way. It's all of them is a subject in its own right. And as I said, the final gift of Savitri. I could go on, but before I close, because somebody had yesterday asked me a question on WhatsApp and I totally forgot about it, about why religions formed around Christ and Buddha, not around Parshuram Ram. Well, people tried to form religion. Try to see the evangelistic fervor with which certain Krishna devotees try to convert people. as absurd and dangerous as anyone else. And I say, please spare, don't bring this element. We have run away from evangelism. So, but it is there. People have tried to form. Buddha, while he is in the body, Mahayana, Hinayana, later on Theravada, Buddhism, all this started. This effort will be there even during Sri Aurobindo. But why it never took that form in India is because in India there is always the evolutionary current in spirituality which is admitted. Thankfully, not one book, one God. It's a great blessing. So in India, the evolutionary current, new avatars, new seers, sages, new books, all this came. So we were saved from this. Sanatana Dharma has that evolutionary. But the moment you institutionalize, this is the danger that happens. And the mother said this effort, people will try even with Sri Aurobindo. Fixed dogmas. You go sometimes even near the Samadhi, somebody will tell you, this is not how you sit, this is not how you... So some of them asked me, I had to tell them stories of mother rather than, But there will be effort, but it won't succeed. Even the mother cautioned that there will be effort to turn Sri Aurobindo's yoga into a teaching into a religion, a very cruel religion. But you must know, all must know, that the Lord Sri Aurobindo is great and mighty and benevolent. He's not come to, punish, but to redeem the fallen. So, at the end, let me just read a few lines from this poem, A God's Labor. See, this is the problem when you don't plan anything, because you suddenly feel like reading something and, it's okay. God's Labor. And that old book had very easy to navigate. Can somebody open it for me? I have the other possibility, Incarnate Word. Index of titles, it should be here. Yes, I got it, 534. Thank you. Somebody opened it. So, you see, in the old volume, the index was very neat. But in the new volume, it's all become so chaotic. I used to remember it in the old volume. So it didn't take time at all. Almost pictorial memory. And I'm sure those who have read the SABCL and this one, it's a good work in its own right, but it's arranged more in a scholarly way. And what happens when we become too much of a scholar? We lose the truth and its wholeness in bits and parts. Okay, so we'll close with this few lines, a long poem, A God's Labor. It is God speaking to earth, mother's words. I have gathered my dreams in a silver air between the gold and the blue, and wrapped them softly and left them there, my jeweled dreams of you. Gold and the blue are, of course, the supramental and the spiritual. He has prepared these dreams. Now, as man becomes ready, he will embody them. I had hoped to build a rainbow bridge marrying the soil to the sky, and so in this dancing planet midst the moods of infinity. But too high were our heavens, too far away, too frail their ethereal stuff, too splendid and sudden, our light could not stay. The roots were not deep enough. He who would bring the heavens here must descend himself into clay and the burden of earthly nature bear and tread the dolorous way. Coercing my Godhead, I have come down here on this sordid earth, ignorant, laboring, human grown, twixt the gates of death and birth. I have been digging deep and long, mid a horror of filth and mire, a bed for the golden river's song, a home for the deathless fire. I have labored and suffered in matter's night to bring the fire to man, but the hate of hell and human spite are my meat since the world began. For man's mind is the dupe of his animal self, hoping its lusts to win. He harbors within him a grisly elf, enamored of sorrow and sin. So, when Niruddha asked, before we come to the last few passages now, stanzas, Niruddha asked, you must be busy in the Empyrean, sitting in the supramental. He said, no sir, I am busy with the subconscious, clearing the filth and the mud. You people think that the supermind is just like you catch the tail and bring it down. But I am more concerned about what will happen to the earth when it comes down in an unprepared humanity. Not everybody can lift the giant bow of Shiva or Bhima's mace. If he tries, by technology it will fall upon himself and he will be crushed. He says, I have to prepare man's consciousness, lay down the wiring, make it foolproof, switches everything. Where is the human body fit to receive the supramental and the human consciousness? He says, I am busy doing all that. Same thing about India. 1931 or 32, somebody asked, sir, what about India's freedom? Surely you must be doing something about it. He says, all that is already assured. 1931 or 32. All that is already assured. Now I am working about what India will do with her freedom. Bolshevism, Gundaraj, things look ominous. See, that's what he was worried about. What will the world do if the supermind comes down? There will be such a chaos and confusion. People will be blown away. And the mother says, that's why divine love is the cushion. Otherwise, you'll fall and break your neck. Divine love is the cushion which prevents us from, And she says the analogy, how the power of purification dissolves and then changes. But love does not do that. It acts like a leaven and changes from within without the need of dissolution. So this is his love and compassion which he has given as gifts to the earth. And toward the end, heavens on a desperate stair my feet have trod, armored with boundless peace, bringing the fires of the splendor of God into the human abyss. Heaven's fire is lit in the breast of the earth, and the undying suns here burn. Through a wonder cleft in the bounds of birth, the incarnate spirits yearn like flames to the kingdoms of truth and bliss. These are the children who are going to change the earth. Don't worry about thousands and 10,000s of all kinds. Who are the children? Like flames to the kingdoms of truth and bliss, down a gold-red stairway went, the gold of the supermind and red of the earth. Down a gold-red stairway went the radiant children of paradise, clarioning darkness's end. This is a passage in Savitri also to that effect. I saw the omnipotent flaming pioneers. And she said, these children are going to come more and more. especially to those who have, turned towards the new light. So Udar said, oh, that is so wonderful. He said, no, but parents must know it is not going to be easy to bring them up. It will be very difficult. They won't listen to all the ignorant things of the parents, and if you expect they will get up in the morning and say, good morning Amma, good morning Papa, be very well behaved, extremely good mannered. No, forget about it. They are going to tell you, Dad, you're wrong. You're telling a lie. My heart says something which I listen, not what you say. Damn the scriptures, I want God. They'll say like that. I don't want to go to the temple. I want to discover Hanumanji here. You fight with them. Clarioning darknesses, and they will free God from all the trappings. And then finally these last 8 lines, a little more and the new life's doors. Everything they have done. They have brought the supramental creation right here. Subtle physical. Something we have to do. Remember the stick of the Gwal Bal lifting Govardhan? A little more. So that we don't feel ki, oh, everything that we must deserve a little. Be ready. So little more. Little more is what? Mother said that all that the new consciousness asks from you is a yes. She says something in man wants it, but there is something which refuses it. All that it wants from you is a sincere yes. And then she says, and time presses from the human point of view. Just a sincere yes. Forget about all these mental calculation, this, that, ifs, but say yes, we want the new creation. We don't want these old tablets to continue. They may be very nice, pleasant, good, but it's so imperfect, so limited. And let the new creation come. That's all she wants. So a little more and the new life's doors shall be carved in silver light, with its aureate roof and mosaic floors, in a great world, bare and bright. All this idea about human unity, the way, everything they have given. In a great world, bare and bright. And finally, he has left this gift, this golden dream for us to, I wouldn't say realize, to embody. That's all. To prepare ourselves to embody the supramental life, the new creation, which is the greatest of all gifts. I shall leave my dreams in their argent air, for in a raiment of gold and blue, there shall move on the earth, embodied and fair, the living truth of you. So First and Second World Wars, when the war was going on, Sri Aurobindo was writing Savitri and Arya, bringing the new light. First World War, 1916 he started. Second World War is over. He is approaching. He knows he has to leave the body. But he is writing, completing Savitri. 2 weeks before he departs, Niruddha writes, he asks, is it over? He says, yes. He takes a sigh of relief and says, his most important work, it is over. He says, but sir, book of death is left to be revised. He says, that we will see later. So even going through all this process, human ingratitude, lack of receptivity, he was giving to earth and man the supreme gift of the new creation, embodied in Savitri. And finally, just read Savitri. Mother has said, just reading Savitri is the yoga. It can take us to all the realizations of the yoga of transformation without the help of a living guru. Thank you.